The smell of stale air and broken dreams filled the cantina on Orbital Station Gamma 7 as Rex Torval counted the credits on his account display for the third time. The four-armed Catharian mercenary had seen better days, and his scaled green skin showed scars from countless battles across the galaxy. His crew of 12 waited on his ship while he sat across from a nervous little Centaurian who kept looking over his shoulder every few seconds. 50 million credits, Rex said slowly, his mandibles clicking as he spoke. That's more than I've made in the last 5 years combined. The Centaur named Flynn nodded quickly, and his bulbous eyes darted around the room again. The job is simple. 1 transport ship, 1 cargo hold. You take what's inside and deliver it to the coordinates I'll provide. Rex leaned back in his chair and studied the alien across from him. In 30 years of mercenary work, he had learned to smell fear and desperation. This little bureaucrat reeked of both. What kind of cargo needs this level of payment? Corporate. Data, Flynn said too quickly. Industrial secrets from the Terran Defense Consortium. Nothing dangerous, just valuable information. The Catharian's secondary eyes narrowed while his primary pair watched Flynn's body language. Every species had tells when they lied, and Centaurians were among the easiest to read. Their eye stalks twitched when they were nervous, and this ones were practically vibrating. What about security? Rex asked. Minimal. Standard corporate protection? Maybe a few guards with basic weapons? Nothing your crew can't handle with their eyes closed. Rex drummed his claws on the metal table. His crew was among the best in the sector. Grax the demolitions expert could blow through any door or wall. Yila the sniper could hit a target from 3 kilometers away. Norum handled all their tech needs and could hack any system. The other 9 were all battle-tested veterans from different worlds. Where's the target? Mining facility on Kepler 438c, remote location in the Outer Rim. The transport leaves in 72 hours and travels through the Veil Nebula. Perfect place for an intercept. Rex knew the Veil Nebula. Well, its thick gas clouds and electromagnetic storms made it a favorite hiding spot for pirates and smugglers. Sensor range was limited and communications were almost impossible. Any ship that disappeared there would never be found. I need 40%. Up front, Rex said. Flynn transferred the credits without hesitation. 20 million appeared in Rex's account instantly. The Centaurian stood up and straightened his cheap suit. Remember, Captain, the cargo containers must remain sealed. My employers are very specific about that requirement. After Flynn left, Rex sat alone in the cantina and stared at his account balance. Something felt wrong about this job, but 50 million credits could buy a lot of problems solved. He finished his drink and walked back to his ship. The Crimson Talon was a modified assault frigate that had served Rex well for over a decade. Its hull was scarred from countless battles, but its weapon systems were state-of-the-art. The ship could punch through most defenses, and its boarding equipment was perfect for taking prizes. His crew gathered in the main hold as Rex explained the mission. They were a mix of species from across the galaxy, but they all shared the same cold professionalism that made them effective killers. Standard intercept and board, Rex announced. 1 transport with light security. We take the cargo and eliminate. Any witnesses? What about the crew? Asked Yila. The reptilian sniper kept her emotions hidden behind cold yellow eyes. No survivors, Rex replied. Clean and simple. Grax cracked his knuckles with a sound like breaking rocks. The massive alien loved his work and specialized in making things explode. How long do we have? 72 hours to reach the intercept. Point. The target will be traveling alone through the Veil Nebula. We hit them fast and hard before they can send a distress signal. The crew dispersed to prepare their equipment while Rex returned to his quarters. He pulled up the star charts for the Veil Nebula and studied the approach vectors. The transport would have to follow a specific route to avoid the worst of the electromagnetic storms. That made the intercept point predictable. As the Crimson Talon jumped to hyperspace, Rex reviewed the mission parameters one more time. Something about Flynn's nervousness bothered him, but he couldn't identify what. Maybe it was just the size of the payment or the secrecy surrounding the cargo. Either way, 50 million credits was worth a little risk. The journey to the Veil Nebula took 2 days. During that time, Rex's crew ran combat drills and checked their equipment. Everyone knew their role, and they had worked together long enough to function as a perfect team. They had successfully raided corporate facilities, military convoys, and even a few government installations. When they dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the nebula, Norum immediately began scanning for their target. The dense gases and electromagnetic interference made sensor work difficult, but the tech specialist was among the best in the galaxy. Contact, Norum announced. Single vessel bearing 27 Mark IV, configuration matches the target profile. Rex studied the tactical display. The transport appeared to be a standard civilian freighter about half the size of his ship. No escort vessels and no obvious weapon signatures. It looked like exactly what Flynn had described. Almost too easy, muttered Grax. Easy jobs pay well, Rex replied. Full sensor sweep. I want to know everything about that ship. The results appeared on his display moments later. The transport Meridian Dawn was a Class C freight hauler with minimal shielding and standard propulsion. Life signs showed 8 crew members, which was normal for a ship that size. Hail them, Rex ordered. The view screen showed a human male in a merchant captain's uniform. His dark hair was slightly messy and his eyes looked tired. Just another freight hauler trying to make a living in the Outer Rim. This is Captain Davis of the Meridian Dawn, the human said. We're on a scheduled run to the Proxima colonies. Is there a problem? Rex smiled and his predatory teeth gleamed in the bridge lighting. I'm afraid there is, Captain. You're carrying something that belongs to my employers. Surrender your cargo and we'll make this quick. The human's expression didn't change much. I'm not carrying anything valuable. Just mining equipment and basic supplies. Scan deeper, Rex commanded quietly. Norm's display confirmed the cargo holds contained sealed containers that matched Flynn's specifications exactly. I think you're lying, Captain Davis, Rex said. You have 10 seconds to cut your engines and prepare for boarding. Otherwise, we'll disable your ship and take what we want from the wreckage. Davis seemed to think about this for a moment, then nodded slowly. Understood, cutting engines now. The Meridian Dawn went dark and began drifting in the nebula's thick gases. Rex felt a moment of satisfaction. Another textbook operation that would make him rich. Boarding party prep for insertion, he announced over the ship's intercom. Grax. Yila, take point. I want those containers secured in 20 minutes. As his crew armed themselves and prepared their boarding equipment, Rex watched the transport through the viewscreen. Something still nagged at him about how easily Davis had surrendered. Most merchant captains would try to negotiate or at least ask questions about what was happening. The Crimson Talon extended its boarding tube and locked onto the transport's main airlock. Through the security monitors, Rex watched his crew breach the airlock with practiced efficiency. The corridor beyond looked normal with standard lighting and atmosphere readings. Proceeding to cargo hold, Grax reported. No resistance encountered. Rex allowed himself a predatory grin. 20 minutes of work for 50 million credits. Maybe after this job he would finally retire and buy that small moon he had been dreaming about. But as his crew moved deeper into the transport, Rex didn't know he was about to learn why human ships were different from every other vessel in the galaxy. The Meridian Dawn wasn't carrying corporate secrets or industrial data. It was carrying 8 members of humanity's most elite military unit. And these particular humans had just spent 6 months training to kill in ways that would give nightmares to the galaxy's most dangerous predators. The first sign something was wrong came when Yila reported that the crew signatures had vanished from her scanner. The reptilian sniper crouched in the Meridian Dawn's main corridor with her weapon ready, while Grax and the others spread out in standard formation. The transport's interior looked normal enough with clean walls and standard lighting, but the silence felt unnatural. 8 life signs just disappeared, Yila whispered into her com. They were there a moment ago, and now they're gone. Rex frowned as he studied the sensor readings from his bridge. The transport should have had a crew of 8 humans according to the initial scans, but now the ship appeared completely empty. That was impossible unless they had some kind of shielding technology. "Check the crew quarters," he ordered. "They have to be hiding somewhere." His boarding party moved deeper into the ship with weapons raised and senses alert. The corridors branched off in different directions, leading to living quarters, the engine room, and the cargo holds. Everything appeared normal but the silence was getting to them. Korvac, the team's demolitions expert, took point as they approached the first set of crew quarters. The Zephyrion was built like a walking tank with thick armor plating and weapons that could punch through steel. He had never met an enemy he couldn't handle. "Doors unlocked," Korvac reported as he pressed the control panel. The portal slid open to reveal a small living space with a bed, desk, and personal belongings, but no crew member. "Clear," he said, and stepped inside to check the attached bathroom. That was when the lights went out. The ship's emergency power kicked in seconds later, bathing everything in red light. When Korvac's helmet camera came back online, he was gone. His weapon lay on the floor, still warm from his grip, but the Zephyrion had vanished completely. "Korvac report," Rex barked over the com. Only static answered him. "He was right here," Grax said, his voice tight with confusion. "How does someone just disappear?" Yila's scanner was going crazy as she swept the area. "I'm getting readings throughout the ship. Movement in the ventilation system. Something's using the maintenance shafts." Rex studied the ship's blueprints on his display. The Meridian Dawn was supposed to be a simple freighter, but the vent system was far more complex than any civilian ship needed. It formed a network that connected every room and corridor on the ship. "Stay together," he ordered. "No one goes anywhere alone." The boarding party regrouped and continued toward the cargo hold. They moved in tight formation with weapons covering all angles. The red emergency lighting cast strange shadows on the walls and made every corner look threatening. "This is wrong," Norum muttered from his position at the rear. "The life signs are everywhere and nowhere. Like they're phasing in and out of reality." "Impossible," Rex replied, but doubt was creeping into his voice. In 30 years of mercenary work, he had never seen anything like this. The cargo hold was a large open space filled with sealed containers exactly as Flynn had described. But something was wrong with the shadows. They seemed to move independently of the lighting as if they were alive. "Secure the containers," Rex ordered. "Whatever's happening, we complete the mission." Grax and 2 others moved toward the cargo, while Yila and the remaining crew established a perimeter. The bay was silent except for the hum of life support and the distant sounds of the ship's systems. Then the lights went out again. The emergency power took longer to activate this time. When the red lighting finally returned, Terrell was gone. The veteran Zephyrian warrior had been standing in the center of the formation just moments before. His weapon lay on the floor next to a small pool of something dark. "What are we dealing with?" Yila hissed as she swept her rifle across the shadows. Her answer came through the ship's intercom system. Captain Davis's voice, but now it carried a cold professional tone that made Rex's scales crawl. "You're dealing with humanity's finest, Captain Torval. 8 operators from the Terran Special Operations Command. We've been trained to fight in environments that would kill most species." "Impossible," Rex transmitted back. "Humans are weak. You're barely above civilian level in combat effectiveness." A sound that might have been laughter echoed through the speakers. "That's what everyone thinks, until they meet us in the dark." The next few minutes became a nightmare of disappearing crew members and moving shadows. Rex watched through his remaining helmet cameras as his elite killers were picked off one by one. The humans moved like ghosts through the ship, striking from impossible angles and vanishing before anyone could react. Vex, his second-in-command, was taken while standing in the middle of an open corridor. One moment he was there giving orders, and the next he was gone. A maintenance shaft that should have been too small for anyone to enter had somehow swallowed him whole. "Fall back to the boarding tube," Rex ordered desperately. "Abort the mission." But when his surviving crew reached the airlock, they found their escape route had been cut. The boarding tube was severed and the airlock sealed. They were trapped on the transport with creatures that hunted like nothing he had ever encountered. "Sir?" Noram's voice shook with terror. "I'm detecting movement throughout the ship. They're everywhere." Through the final helmet camera, Rex watched Grax make his last stand in the cargo hold. The massive alien warrior fired his plasma rifle at shadows while roaring challenges in his native language. The weapon's energy bolts lit up the darkness, but hit nothing solid. The humans didn't give him the honor of a direct fight. They waited until his power cell was depleted, then struck from behind with silent efficiency. The camera feed cut to static as Grax fell. Rex found himself alone on the bridge of the Crimson Talon, staring at blank monitors. His entire crew of 12 elite killers had been eliminated in less than 20 minutes by 8 humans who had turned a simple freight transport into a death trap. The comm system crackled with Davis's voice. "Captain Torval, you have a choice. You can try to destroy this ship and us with it, or you can listen to what we have to say." Rex's claws hovered over the weapons console. He could fire everything he had at the transport and turn it into space. Debris, but something in the human's tone made him pause. There was no fear there, no desperation, just calm confidence. "I'm listening," he said quietly. "Good, because we have a proposition for you that will change everything you think you know about warfare in this galaxy." The Meridian Dawn had never been a simple freight transport. It was a mobile training facility for the most dangerous soldiers humanity had ever produced. And Captain Davis wasn't a merchant at all. He was Major Tom Bradley of the Terran Special Operations Command. And he was about to teach a Catharian mercenary why humans were called the galaxy's apex predators. The red emergency lighting flickered as the transport systems returned to normal. Through his viewscreen, Rex could see the human ship waiting silently in the nebula's embrace. 8 soldiers had just demonstrated that everything the galaxy thought it knew about human combat capabilities was wrong. Rex realized he was no longer the hunter. He had become the prey, and the predators were offering him a chance to switch sides before they decided he was no longer useful. The age of human expansion was about to begin, and it would be written in the blood of anyone foolish enough to stand in their way. Against every survival instinct screaming at him to run, Rex found himself standing in the transport's cargo hold facing 8 humans who had just slaughtered his entire crew. The bodies of his warriors were nowhere to be seen, but their weapons lay in neat piles near the sealed containers. The humans stood in perfect formation with their faces calm and professional. Major Tom Bradley stepped forward and extended his hand in the strange human greeting ritual. The man was shorter than most galactic species, with unremarkable brown hair and average features, but his eyes held a depth that spoke of battles fought in places that would break other minds. "Captain Torval," Bradley said, "thank you for accepting our invitation." "You killed my crew," Rex stated without emotion. His forearms remained at his sides, but his claws were ready to strike if needed. "We defended ourselves," Bradley replied. "Your people came aboard our ship with weapons drawn and hostile intent. We responded according to our training." The other humans remained silent, but Rex could feel their attention on him like physical weight. Each one radiated the same quiet confidence that marked apex predators. He had seen it before in the deadliest creatures across the galaxy. "How?" The word came out as a growl. "My crew were elite killers." "Veterans of 100 battles, you're just humans." A woman with short blonde hair spoke up. "Just humans from a deathworld, Captain. Do you understand what that actually means?" Rex's mandibles clicked nervously. "High gravity world. Dangerous ecosystem, extreme weather patterns. Every species knows Earth's classification." "That's the scientific definition," Bradley said as he began walking around the cargo hold. "But let me tell you what it really means in practical terms. It means we evolved on a planet that was actively trying to kill us every second of every day. The humans' movements were fluid and controlled like a predator stalking its territory. Everything on Earth sees humans as either prey or a threat. The weather systems can kill you in minutes. The animals hunt in packs with intelligence that rivals most galactic species. Even the plants are poisonous or carnivorous. Most species evolved on worlds where cooperation meant survival, added the blonde woman. You learned to build cities, form governments, create technology that helped entire populations survive. But humans learned something different. We learned to hunt, Bradley continued. Not just for food, but for survival itself. Every human child learns to fight because Earth doesn't allow weakness. We develop persistence, hunting, pack tactics, and the ability to use any environment as a weapon. Rex felt his scales starting to crawl as he understood what they were telling him. Your crew knew this ship better than mine did. We've been training on this transport for 6 months, Bradley confirmed. Every corridor, every vent shaft, every blind spot and shadow. We know exactly how sound travels through the hull and where the structural weak points are located. But it's more than familiarity, said another human, a dark-skinned man with scars on his hands. It's the way we think. Your crew fought like soldiers following rules and tactics. We hunted like predators looking for any advantage. They expected a fair fight, the blonde woman added. Humans don't fight fair. We fight to win using whatever works. Because on our world, losing means death. Rex thought about how quickly his crew had been eliminated. The ventilation system, you used it like a hunting ground. Among other things, Bradley replied. We also used the ship's own structure, the lighting systems, sound dampening, and psychological warfare. Your people never had a chance because they were thinking like warriors instead of hunters. The containers, Rex said suddenly. What's really in them? Classified military equipment, Bradley answered, but not corporate secrets like your employer claimed. These contain the first generation of human combat gear designed for galactic warfare. Equipment that requires human reflexes and human thinking to operate effectively. Why are you telling me this? Because you're going to work for us now, Bradley said simply. The Terran Defense Consortium is expanding operations throughout the galaxy. We need experienced mercenaries who understand the criminal underworld. And if I refuse? The human smile was perhaps the most terrifying expression Rex had ever seen. It held no warmth, no mercy, only the cold calculation of a predator deciding whether something was worth killing. Then you're free to leave, Bradley said. But I should mention that the Meridian Dawn isn't alone in this nebula. There are 3 other TDC vessels nearby, each one crewed by units similar to ours. You're building an army, Rex realized. We're preparing for war, Bradley corrected. The galaxy is changing, Captain. Old alliances are breaking down, corporate interests are becoming more aggressive, and there are threats out there that make your crew look like children with toys. The human gestured toward the cargo containers. These represent the future of warfare in this galaxy. But equipment is only part of the equation. We need intelligence networks, criminal contacts, and operators who understand how the underworld functions. What makes you think I'll betray my own kind? Because you're not stupid, Bradley replied bluntly. You just watched 8 humans eliminate 12 elite killers in 20 minutes without taking a single casualty. Now imagine what 100 of us could do, or 1,000. Rex considered this carefully. His crew was dead, his ship was surrounded by enemy vessels, and he was facing a species that had demonstrated combat capabilities far beyond anything he had encountered. But more than that, he recognized opportunity when he saw it. What would you want me to do? What you do best, Bradley answered. Hunt criminals, gather intelligence, and eliminate threats to human interests. The work is similar to what you've been doing, but now you'll have support from the most effective military force in the galaxy. And the pay? Better than anything you've ever imagined. The Terran Defense Consortium has resources that make your 50 million credit job look like pocket change. Rex thought about Flynn and the nervous way the Centaurian had acted during their meeting. My employer? He knew what this really was. Flynn works for us now, Bradley confirmed. He's been recruiting mercenary crews for elimination or conversion depending on their skills and reliability. Yours was marked for conversion, because you need people like me. Because we need people who understand that the galaxy operates on violence and fear, Bradley corrected. Most species try to avoid conflict through diplomacy and negotiation. Humans understand that sometimes you have to hurt people to make them listen. The cargo hold fell silent as Rex weighed his options. He could refuse and probably die within minutes, or he could accept and become part of something that might reshape the entire galaxy. "What happened to my crew?" he asked. "They were given the same choice you're being offered," Bradley replied. "They chose to fight instead of listen. That decision had consequences. And if I work for you, then you'll discover what it means to hunt alongside apex predators instead of being hunted by them. You'll have access to resources, intelligence, and support that will make your old mercenary work look primitive." Rex extended one of his hands toward the human. "I accept your offer, Major Bradley." The human's grip was surprisingly strong for such a small creature. "Welcome to the Terran Auxiliary Corps, Captain Torval. Your real education is about to begin." As they shook hands, Rex realized that everything he thought he knew about warfare, about hunting, and about survival was about to change. The humans hadn't just recruited him, they had claimed him. And somehow that felt like the smartest decision he had ever made. 3 months after his recruitment, Rex stood on the observation deck of Station Blackwater watching human engineers install new weapon systems on captured pirate vessels. The hidden facility was carved from a dead asteroid in the Cygnus sector, and served as headquarters for what the galaxy's intelligence services had begun calling the Terran Auxiliary Corps. The station itself was a marvel of human engineering with corridors that twisted through solid rock and defensive systems that could repel a fleet. But what impressed Rex most was how quickly the humans had turned former enemies into loyal allies through a combination of pragmatism and controlled violence. "Status report," Major Bradley requested as he joined Rex at the observation window. The human looked older than when they had first met, bearing the weight of commanding what had become the most feared organization in the galaxy. "The Vega system operation is complete," Rex reported. "The smuggling ring has been eliminated and their assets transferred to our control. No survivors, no evidence linking us to the action. Collateral damage? Minimal. The civilians never knew we were there." This was how human operations worked. Surgical strikes that left no trace and no witnesses. It was completely different from the chaotic mercenary raids Rex had conducted in his previous life. The humans planned everything down to the smallest detail and executed with machine-like precision. "Recruitment numbers?" Bradley asked. "Ahead of projections. Word is spreading through the criminal networks that cooperation with human interests is profitable while opposition is fatal. Most are choosing the smart path." It was true. The galaxy's underworld had learned quickly that fighting humans was suicide. The Terran Special Operations Command had demonstrated their capabilities dozens of times, always leaving behind only whispered stories of elite units that struck without warning. "Sir," called out Nix, a former Centaurian information broker who now coordinated the station's intelligence operations, "we're receiving reports from multiple sources. The hegemony is mobilizing military assets near the Terran border." Bradley's expression darkened. The hegemony was one of the galaxy's major powers, a confederation of older species that had dominated politics and trade for centuries. They viewed humanity as an upstart species that needed to be controlled before it became a threat. "Fleet composition?" Bradley asked. 15 heavy cruisers, 8 dreadnoughts, and approximately 60 support vessels. They're calling it a training exercise, but the formation suggests offensive operations. Of course they are. Bradley turned to Rex. "Captain, I want you to select the team for a special mission, something small and efficient. You have 72 hours to demonstrate why the hegemony should reconsider their position." Rex felt the familiar thrill of anticipation that came with dangerous work. Parameters? Minimal collateral damage, but maximum psychological impact. Make them understand that humanity isn't just another species to be intimidated. "Understood, sir." 24 hours later, Rex was aboard a cloaked infiltration vessel approaching the hegemony fleet's command ship. His team consisted of 8 operators, 4 humans, and 4 aliens who had proven themselves in previous missions. Each member carried the latest human-designed equipment, including adaptive camouflage and weapons that could penetrate any known armor. The plan was elegant in its simplicity. They would board the flagship, neutralize the command structure, and leave a message that would make the hegemony leadership reconsider their aggressive stance. No unnecessary killing, but the demonstration would make human capabilities clear. Target. Vessel is the Eternal Glory, reported Sam, the team's human technical specialist. Dreadnought class with enhanced shielding and point defense systems. Crew of over 3,000. Security protocols? Rex asked. Standard hegemony military. With rotating patrols and sensor sweeps? Nothing our stealth systems can't handle. The infiltration ship was another example of human engineering excellence. Its hull was designed to absorb sensor radiation while its propulsion system produced no detectable emissions. They could approach the enemy fleet without being discovered. Remember, Rex told his team, we're sending a message, not starting a war. Neutralize threats but avoid unnecessary casualties. The goal is to demonstrate capability, not create martyrs. The approach took 4 hours as they navigated through the fleet's outer perimeter. The hegemony ships were arranged in a standard defensive formation, but their sensors were focused outward toward human space. They weren't expecting an attack from within their own formation. Docking with the target, Sam announced. Magnetic. Clamps engaged, cutting through the hull now. The human-designed cutting tools made no sound as they carved through the dreadnought's armor. Within minutes, they had created an entry point that bypassed all security systems. The team moved through the opening like ghosts. Inside the Eternal Glory, Rex marveled at how the humans had trained him to think differently about infiltration. Instead of fighting their way through the ship, they moved like water, flowing around. Obstacles and avoiding confrontation whenever possible. Bridge is 12 levels up, whispered Lynn, the team's human combat specialist. Security checkpoint at level 6 and another at level 10. Bypass both, Rex decided. Maintenance shafts and service corridors, we ghost all the way to the target. The humans had taught him that the best fight was one that never happened. Why battle through security when you could simply avoid it entirely? The ship's own structure became their ally as they moved through passages that the crew never monitored. Contact, Sam reported quietly. Patrol coming our way. The team melted into the shadows as 4 hegemony soldiers walked past their position. The aliens were alert and professional, but they were looking for external threats, not infiltrators. Already inside their ship? Clear, Sam announced after the patrol passed. They reached the command deck without encountering any resistance. The bridge was a massive space filled with control stations and tactical displays. Admiral Kelthax, the hegemony's most decorated commander, stood at the center directing his fleet's operations. Now, Rex commanded, the team moved simultaneously. The bridge guards were neutralized with silent efficiency while the command crew found themselves facing beings who had appeared from nowhere. Not a single alarm was triggered. This is impossible, Admiral Kelthax sputtered, his feathered crest fluffing with distress. My security is impenetrable. How did you get aboard my ship? No security is impenetrable to determined humans, Rex replied, his voice carrying the authority of someone who had learned this lesson personally. We could have killed everyone on this vessel, Admiral. Instead, we chose to deliver a message. He placed a data device on the command console. The Terran Defense Consortium claims no territory and seeks no dominion over other species. But we will not tolerate aggression against human interests. Withdraw your fleet and end these provocations. And if we refuse? Admiral Kelthax asked. Rex smiled with an expression he had learned from humans. It was cold and predatory and utterly without mercy. Then you'll discover why Deathworlder elite units are every military commander's worst nightmare. The human team members remained silent, but their presence spoke volumes. They had penetrated the most secure ship in the hegemony fleet without being detected. What else might they be capable of? You have 24 hours to begin withdrawal, Rex continued. If your fleet is still here after that deadline, we'll assume you've chosen the violent option. This is an act of war, Admiral Calfax protested. No, Rex replied. This is a demonstration of capability. An act of war would involve your ship disappearing along with everyone on it. The Terran Defense Consortium is offering you the choice to avoid that outcome. The team withdrew as silently as they had arrived, leaving the Hegemony command staff to contemplate what had just happened. By the time the Admiral's security forces began searching for infiltrators, the humans and their allies were already back on their ship. Mission accomplished, Rex reported to Bradley over the secure channel. The message has been delivered. Response? The Hegemony fleet is already beginning withdrawal maneuvers. Admiral Calfax is a veteran commander who understands the implications of what we just demonstrated. Excellent work, Captain. Return to base for debriefing. As the infiltration ship departed, Rex reflected on how much his life had changed since that first encounter in the Veil Nebula. He had traded his independence for purpose and his chaotic mercenary existence for something resembling honor, but most importantly, he had learned that the galaxy was changing. The old rules no longer applied when humans were involved. They didn't conquer through overwhelming force like traditional military powers. They simply made the costs of opposition too high to bear. The Hegemony would remember this lesson, and they would share it with other species who might be considering aggressive action against human interests. The age of human expansion was proceeding exactly according to plan, and Rex was proud to be part of the force that was reshaping the galaxy one demonstration at a time. 1 year after the Hegemony incident, Rex walked through the corridors of Station Blackwater and marveled at how much had changed. The facility had expanded into 3 connected asteroids with manufacturing bays, training facilities, and command centers that coordinated operations across dozens of star systems. What had started as a simple recruitment base had become the nerve center for humanity's shadow war against the galaxy's criminal organizations. Former pirates, smugglers, and mercenaries from hundreds of species now worked alongside human operators in a partnership that was reshaping the balance of power throughout known space. The old chaos of independent criminal groups had been replaced by efficient networks that served human interests while eliminating threats to galactic stability. Warning. Briefing in 5 minutes, announced Alex, a human intelligence officer who had joined the team 6 months earlier. The young woman moved with the same controlled grace that marked all human military personnel, but her specialty was information warfare rather than direct combat. Rex made his way to the main command center, where dozens of operators monitored communications, tracked ship movements, and coordinated missions that spanned multiple sectors. The walls displayed tactical maps showing human influence spreading like a web throughout the galaxy. Major Bradley stood at the center of it all, studying reports that flowed in from agents across known space. The human had been promoted twice since Rex's recruitment and now commanded operations that affected billions of lives. His hair showed more gray than before, but his eyes remained sharp and calculating. Status report, Bradley requested as the morning briefing began. The Orion Syndicate has been neutralized, reported Captain Vell, a former Andorian smuggler who now ran interdiction operations. Their leadership was eliminated during what appeared to be an internal power struggle. All assets have been transferred to our control. The Centauri Trade Federation is requesting mediation in their dispute with the Rigel Consortium, added Nix from the intelligence station. Both sides are offering substantial fees for our services. Rex listened to the reports with satisfaction. The Terran Auxiliary Corps had become the galaxy's premier problem-solving organization. Criminal groups that refused to cooperate found themselves destroyed by mysterious accidents or internal conflicts. Those who accepted human oversight discovered that cooperation was extremely profitable. What about the border world situation? Bradley asked. Resolved, Rex replied. The separatist movement has been convinced to pursue peaceful negotiations rather than armed rebellion. Their weapon suppliers have experienced unfortunate supply chain disruptions. This was typical of how humans handled political problems. Instead of choosing sides in conflicts, they eliminated the elements that made violence profitable. Remove the weapons dealers, the radical leaders, and the external funding, and most disputes resolve themselves through negotiation. Sir, Alex announced. Priority message from Terran Command. The Senate is requesting a briefing on our expansion activities. Bradley's expression darkened slightly. The Terran government officially knew nothing about the auxiliary corps, but certain senators had begun asking uncomfortable questions about humanity's suddenly improved position in galactic affairs. Schedule a meeting with Senator Walsh, Bradley. Decided. Limited disclosure, emphasis on benefits to human colonial security. Understood, sir. Rex had learned that humans were masters of managing information flow. Their own government received carefully edited reports that emphasized positive outcomes while omitting operational details. Most senators were content to enjoy the benefits without asking too many questions about methods. Captain Torval, Bradley said, I have a special assignment for you. The Tau Ceti system has developed a problem that requires your particular expertise. What kind of problem? The local crime syndicate has been infiltrated by Scari intelligence operatives. They're using criminal networks to gather information about human shipping routes and defensive positions. Rex felt his predatory instincts sharpen. The Scari Empire was one of the few remaining powers that still viewed humanity as a potential threat rather than an established fact. Their intelligence services were sophisticated and dangerous. Rules of engagement? Rex asked. Eliminate the operatives and their local assets. Make it look like an internal power struggle. Leave no evidence of human involvement. How many targets? 12 confirmed operatives plus an unknown number of local collaborators. They're operating from a casino complex on Tau Ceti Prime. Rex smiled with genuine anticipation. This was the kind of work he had been born for. I'll need a team of specialists. Mixed human and alien personnel. Take whoever you need. Budget is unlimited. 6 hours later, Rex was aboard a fast courier ship heading for the Tau Ceti system with 8 carefully selected operators. The team included 2 human infiltration specialists, a Vulcan computer expert, an Orion demolition specialist, and 4 others with skills perfectly suited for the mission. The casino complex was a massive structure that catered to wealthy criminals from across the sector. Security was heavy but focused on preventing theft rather than assassination. The Scari operatives had chosen their base well, hiding among the gamblers and pleasure seekers who filled the facility. Target profiles confirmed, reported Jana, the team's human intelligence specialist. 12 Scari operatives posing as high-stakes gamblers. They've been here for 3 months building relationships with local crime bosses. Local assets? Rex asked. At least 20 humans and aliens working as informants. They don't know they're feeding information to enemy agents, but they're still security risks. The plan was typically human in its elegance. Instead of a direct assault, they would manipulate existing tensions within the criminal organization to create a violent purge. The Scari operatives would be eliminated along with their local contacts in what appeared to be an internal power struggle. Phase 1 begins at midnight, Rex announced. Jana and Tom infiltrate the casino security systems. Kex and Moore start rumors about traitors in the organization. The rest of us position for the main event. The operation unfolded with clockwork precision. By dawn, the casino was in chaos as different factions within the crime syndicate turned on each other. The Scari operatives found themselves targets of their own criminal allies, as carefully planted evidence suggested they were planning to betray the organization. When the violence ended, all 12 enemy agents were dead along with their local collaborators. The surviving criminals believed they had uncovered and eliminated a conspiracy, never suspecting they had been manipulated by human intelligence operatives. Mission accomplished, Rex reported to Bradley over secure channels. The Scari intelligence network in Tau Ceti has been completely eliminated. Collateral damage? Minimal. Only the intended targets were eliminated. The local criminal organization has actually been strengthened by removing the foreign influence. Excellent work. Return to base for debriefing. As the courier ship jumped to hyperspace, Rex reflected on how perfectly the mission had demonstrated human tactical thinking. They hadn't simply killed their enemies. They had turned those enemies' own allies against them, while simultaneously strengthening the local power structure that served human interests. This was why the Terran Auxiliary Corps was so effective. They didn't just solve problems. They reshaped entire situations to create permanent advantages for humanity, while making their interventions appear natural and inevitable. Back at station Blackwater, Rex found Bradley studying intelligence reports from the Outer Rim territories. The human looked up as he entered the command center. "How did the mission feel?" Bradley asked. "Like hunting," Rex replied honestly. "But more satisfying than anything I did as an independent mercenary." "Why?" "Because now the hunt has purpose beyond profit. We're not just eliminating targets, we're building something." Bradley nodded approvingly. "That's exactly what we're doing, Captain. Building a galaxy where humanity can thrive without constantly looking over our shoulders for the next threat." "And the other species?" "Will benefit from the stability we're creating. Order is better than chaos for everyone, even if they don't understand how that order is maintained." Rex looked at the tactical displays showing human influence spreading throughout known space. In 2 years, the Terran Auxiliary Corps had transformed from a small recruitment operation into the most powerful shadow organization in the galaxy. "What's next?" he asked. "Expansion," Bradley replied simply. "There are still sectors where criminal organizations operate independently. Still species that think they can threaten human interests without consequences, and we'll convince them otherwise. We'll give them the choice to cooperate or be eliminated. Most will choose cooperation once they understand the alternatives." As Rex left the command center to prepare for his next assignment, he thought about the irony of his situation. He had started as a predator hunting for profit and had become something far more dangerous. He was now an apex predator hunting for the future of galactic civilization itself. The galaxy was learning that humanity didn't conquer through overwhelming force or political manipulation. They simply made the costs of opposition higher than anyone was willing to pay while making cooperation extremely profitable. It was evolution in action. And Rex was proud to be part of the species that was teaching the galaxy what survival of the fittest really meant when the fittest were human.